My favorite teacher was Keith Piercy. He taught me history at Spencer Valley High School. He was a cool guy. He had longish hair and a beard, and he drove a sports car. He wasn't like the other teachers. And he liked it when I asked questions. One day, I asked a question and he didn't know the answer. The next day he came and said, "I found out the answer to your question." That made me feel special. I felt like I had a voice and some adult cared about what I had to say. Our vision is that teachers need more time to make their classes interesting and more time to really care about the young people they have the power to inspire. The internet is very cool. I'm connected to other people through Facebook and LinkedIn. These are my networks, my social network for my social life and my professional network for my professional life. But we're doing something different. We're building the educational network for a teacher's teaching life and a student's learning life. That's very different from a social network. In the educational network, teachers take students by the hand and together they walk through the subject, pointing out the interesting and important parts, and which parts they can safely ignore. In the educational network, the teacher is the student's guide to the world of knowledge. Why save time on administration? Instead of staying up late doing boring administrative jobs, teachers can spend more time planning interesting lessons so they come to class with more enthusiasm. They can get into stimulating discussions, and the discussions can continue online. When we start to explore the future of the educational network, what do we discover? We discover that great teaching really matters to students who show the difference it makes by creating great work. It's really easy to use. You know exactly what to do from the minute you look at it. Scolibri, teachers building the educational network for students, parents, and teachers. When I first started sports betting, I'd win, and that was great, but I'd also lose a lot. So I had to find something else. Then I discovered a better way to bet, and I started to win every single time. It's called sure betting. It sounds unbelievable, but now gambling has become investment, and I have SureBet Pro to thank. Hi, I'm Dave, and I'm the lead developer here, managing a team of 5 other guys. The last 2 weeks have been hectic, which is kind of an understatement. We had a really important release coming up. We were all heads down. Anyway, everything was going really well, and we were all confident of hitting our deadline. And that's when the product owner comes into our office and says, "Everything okay? You haven't forgotten the documentation, have you?" I guess I kind of dodged the question. I said, "Yeah, looking good. It's all on schedule. We'll be demoing the code tomorrow." Okay. So we had to ship on Monday, and if the documentation wasn't done, that meant working the weekend. And it was my daughter's birthday. Not great. That's when I saw Marcus. He was walking down the hall outside my office, and I called out, "Hey, Marcus, come in here for a minute. I don't suppose you've done the documentation for the release, have you?" Okay, a little background information. Marcus is new to the team, and when he'd come to me to talk about getting involved, I just didn't have the time to fill him in. He'd taken it okay, but really I should have briefed him. So I wasn't expecting it when he says to me, "Yeah, I've been working on it in Confluence. I made a version of your requirements on the wiki, and I've been rewriting the documentation for the client all along." I just went and looked on the wiki myself. I started reading, I spotted a couple of mistakes, and I just fixed it right there and then. Okay, right. Now it's super clear. Collaborative editing made real. Big advantage. No missed birthday party. Basically, the tech writer can work on the documentation at the same time we're doing the requirements and coding, and nobody gets in the other guy's way.
A lot of people ask me, "Hey Marcus, how did you become a technical writer?" And I say, well, I discovered I was really good at explaining how stuff works. For me, technical documentation is the easy part. The hard part is getting the information I need from everybody else. The challenge is trying to pull all the material together. So that's the problem I wanted to solve. And that's the problem I did solve. Anyway, that week at work was like being in the middle of a storm. The developers were all heads down. I couldn't really get any feedback from them. So, okay, let's have a look in Confluence and see what exactly they're working on. And it was all there. I just did the rewrites from Tech Talk to User Speak. About a week later, Dave called me into his office and asked in kind of a joking way if I'd done the documentation. I said, yeah, I have, much to his surprise. You can take a look on Confluence. That Friday, the whole team goes out to have a beer together. The developers were there, the product owner, project manager, the sales engineers, everybody. And somebody made a joke. "Hey, Marcus, don't go getting any fancy ideas about changing the way we work around here." Quick as a flash, Dave jumps in with, "Well, actually, if Marcus hadn't done his thing, instead of being here now, we'd still be at work." And then he says, "Hey, Marcus, it's kind of a tradition that the new guy buys the drinks. But you know, this time, the drinks are on me."
Hi, I'm Pam, and if you asked me what's your typical day like, I would have to say I don't really have one. I'm kind of the project manager, product owner rolled into one. Take the other day. A big customer wanted to buy a lot of licenses for our leading product. I took a look on Confluence and could see for myself that the documentation was in good shape. Some minor rewrites here and there, but very doable. Our tech writer Marcus was the obvious man for the job. He immediately took control and set up the wiki space. And there's this feature where I can sign off on somebody else's work as being done or finished. It's really built-in workflow. So what could go wrong? Well, I'm talking to the CEO of the customer 2 days before I'd promised him the release. And it turns out that the new version is for Canada. They all speak English there, right? Yes, but some also speak French, and everything has to be in both languages. It's the law. Oops. Right. Well, now we had a problem. "Marcus, I need to see you right away." Well, as it turns out, I didn't need to worry. Of course, Confluence can't do the translation for us, but Marcus's sister can. Her name is Nicole, and it turns out she works as a translator and spent 5 years in Paris. Result? With scroll translations, we simply pushed the English content to her translation management system. She got started on it that afternoon, and we got the translation bang, right on time.
I'm Sebastian, and I've been working here longer than I can remember. Last Tuesday, I'd flown up to Montreal to go on site. We met up in the server room, and of course, it has no internet access, so I'm using the ebook documentation on my tablet. I quickly understood why the customer was struggling, and honestly, when I got there, it was news to me too. I admit, I didn't even know our product did that. Kind of a tricky moment. So I stalled. I said, "Okay, I think I know what this is, but I just have to check." I took a look at the documentation and found the relevant page without too much trouble. Okay, yeah, I see. That's pretty cool. What's not cool is that the first time I hear about it is the first time I see it, and the first time I see it is sitting in front of the customer. I get myself a cup of coffee and I sit down and I start to read. Pretty soon I realize that the documentation is not really explaining things so well. Anyway, I'm reading the documentation and I have a question. I can see from the Confluence page that Dave, our lead developer, has been working on this. So I telephone him and he talks me through it. Then I go back into the customer and fix the problem. Later, I'm sitting in the airport with not much to do. I think, well, might as well use my time for something useful. So I just went onto Confluence myself and I made the changes we needed so the other service guys won't have the same problem when they're out in the field.
When I got back into the office, there was a paper on my desk. I saw it was what I'd just finished editing in the airport lounge online, except now it was nicely formatted and easy to read. I guess we won't be having that problem on a call out again. I like that. I like that a lot.
Perfect. Works for me. Works for the whole company. Get everyone involved with Scroll add-ons for Confluence.
Are we done? Steamjam.com, we make explainer videos, and some of them have cats.